want to turn with you to the Word of God. Philippians chapter 4, verse 13, it says this: I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. How many really believe in that? I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Amen. Praise the Lord. Our ability to imagine is a God-given gift. God gave you and I as human beings, made in His image, the ability to see the past. That is called memory. But He also gave us the ability to visualize, to imagine the future. That is called dreaming. You have got to have a dream. If you don't have a dream, you will literally just be drifting. And I want to say to you, when you are drifting and you're coasting along, chances are you always go downhill. It is important that you should have a dream of the future of what God can do in your life. We are most like our Creator when we are creative, when we start to learn to imagine what the future God can have for you and I. But we should not stop at just imagination. Nothing is going to happen in your life if you are just a dreamer. You should move to the next step, and that is what I call to step out in faith. To actually come to a point that you must take that initiative. Have you been waiting for God to do something in your life? Or maybe God is waiting for you to take that initiative, to do something first. James chapter 2 verse 18 to 20 says this: show me your faith without doing anything, and I will show you my faith by what I do. Faith that does nothing is worth nothing. James chapter 2 verse 18 to 20. When you and I take the initiative, you can be guaranteed and can hold to the promise that God has made, that He will give you the strength to do what He's asking you to do. What I've discovered, that for every person who figured out the dream that God gave to them, 9 out of 10 are afraid to actually get started. What caused us to be afraid to go after what God has promised and given to us? I call this dream destroyer. Dream destroyer are things that stand in the path and say to you, you are not going to pass. You're not going to go through. You're not going to go any further. And if you believe in that, you're going to be stuck in the middle of it all that God wants to give to you. Obviously, as you want to go into God's dreams, there's going to be problems. Some could be financial problems, some could be emotional problems, some could be relational problems. Sometimes it could be even health problem. What do you do when you face this kind of giants in your life? What do you do when you find this thing that's going to destroy your dreams? And I call them giants because they came so large, so big, more than you can ever imagine. Fortunately, we have a story in the Bible that tells us how to deal with these giants that comes in our life. And it's the story of David and Goliath. And you find this in 1 Samuel chapter 17. In Samuel chapter 17, verse 1 to 7, King Saul was the king at that point of time. And he came to know that the Philistines are going to do something against them, and he bring his army down from the mountain to meet the Philistine. The Israelites was along in the northern reach, and the Philistine was in the southern reach. And it came to a point the enemies just couldn't move against each other. So it was a standoff. You don't move forward, I don't move forward. All right? And they come to a point that no one to do anything against one another until came a point of time, the Philistine got a little bit of, impatient and says that, no, that's not what we're going to do now. We're going to send you a mighty warrior. All right? Down on the valley floor, we're going to meet you. You send your army, you send your mighty warrior, we send ours. And we're going to settle this on a one-to-one combat. And that is when they send in Goliath. But no one in the Israel side has got the guts to take these giants at all. No one can take Goliath. He was too big. He was ferocious. He's outfitted from the top to the bottom in all kinds of things that there's no way you can even deal with him with his incredible armor. Except for this kid who comes up to King Saul and says to him, I will do it. And his name is David. It's unlikely that you are ever going to be face a physical giant like Goliath. I don't think any one of you would really face a physical giant like Goliath. But it's likely that you are going to face a whole lot of other common kind of giants. Giants of financial problems. Giants of relational problem. Giants of marriage problem. Giants of work problem. Problems that will keep you from going after what God wants to give to you. In the story of 1 Samuel chapter 17, David actually has to fight 4 other giants before he gets to Goliath. And I will call them the 4 Ds. They are not physical giants, but they were still giants in his mind. And most likely you too will face this kind of giants when you go after the dream that God wants to give to you. They are just as big, just as intimidating, and they can keep you from becoming what God wants you to be. I call them dreams destroyer. And in order to fully to understand these dreams or this destroyer into David's life, we got to go back a little bit more into 1 Samuel chapter 16. The time when Samuel was called, and you remember the times, and when David was called, remember the time God says to Samuel, the prophet of Israel, he said, you go down to this guy named Jesse, and go to his town in Bethlehem, and you're going to anoint Jesse's son to be the next king of Israel. At that time, King Saul was still king. He was very much alive. But God says to David, I have already decided that Saul's days are over. And so this is my secret plan. Go down to this place in Jesse's house and anoint one of his sons to be king. And Samuel went along, find this guy called Jesse. And he says to him, do you have sons? And obviously, Jesse not only have one son, but Jesse has 8 sons. So Samuel goes and says, look at them, all of them. Jesse brings his older son first and parade them before Samuel. Started with his first son, second, and all. And by the time he finished all the 7 of them, Samuel says, this is not the guy, this is not the guy, that is not the guy. And then Samuel says to him, do you have any more son? He says, I have one more. I probably do not think that is a possibility. And he said, call this one. And he called David. David was out in the field taking care of the sheep. And he said, that's the guy. Anoint him and say to him, he's going to be anointed to be the king of Israel. What happened after this? Nothing. Nothing happened after that anointing. In fact, Jesse says to his younger son, Now get back there, out in, take care of the sheep. Nothing at all changed in David's life. He has been given the dream. He has been told, you are going to be the king of Israel. But he has got to get back out there to take care of the sheep. That is quite a long delay between David's anointing as king to the time actually he saw the fulfillment of his dream. And in fact, the first kind of thing that will bust your dream is delay. That is the first giant David has to face. And I'm going to say to you, that's going to be, for some of you, first giant that you're going to deal with, delay. No dream is fulfilled instantly. God gives you the dream one day, but He doesn't fulfill it the next day. Sometimes it takes maybe years. There's always a time delay, a time lapse, a waiting period. 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 12 to 15. Right? And it tells you that he was the son of a man named Jesse. Yeah. But what happened, he says that, but David went back and forth so that he could help with his father with the sheep. David was held back to care for the sheep. In David's case, the thing that held him back was his dad, his father. His father told him, you go back to take care of the sheep. Maybe you're not old enough to do what I want you to do, or what you are called to do yet. There are going to be people that will hold you back. Some of you know what I'm talking about. You have been held back because of your age, because of your race, because of your gender, maybe because you are not pretty or handsome enough, or maybe not even smart enough. Discrimination in any form is always a barrier that you have to break through. There will be people that will hold you back. But here's the saddest part. Sometimes the people who hold you back the most are the ones that love you the most. In David's case, it's the father. His dad isn't going to go for it. My godson is going to be the king of Israel? No way. Get back out there and tend the sheep. Because Jesse would just not have his son be the king of Israel because he will lose a worker, one to take care of his sheep. God has a plan for your life. But so does everybody else has a plan for your life. When God's plan contradicts somebody else's plan, there's going to be a delay. And the people are going to try to hold you back. They have plans for your life too. David's dad just wanted him to be a shepherd. You know, maybe we don't fully understand the real intention behind it. Maybe Jesse had 3 of his sons already in the front line, fighting the battle. And he's not prepared to spare another son. Although this is not likely because Jesse has 5 other sons more. Besides David, there is another 4 more. 3 are already in the field. But I believe I can identify with a man like Jesse. When 3 of your sons are already in the front line, you wouldn't want to spare another son to be in the front line. That is human. That is just natural. Sometimes people who love you will hold you back from the dream that God has given you for your life. At one point, it comes to Jesse that his 3 favorite son was in the front line, and he thought that maybe it's about time that he got to show some care for them. And he told to his younger son David and said that, why don't you carry this package of food to your older brother that is in the battlefield? Right, so David gets all this thing here, and this is the first time he gets to the battlefield. And the first thing when he was at the battlefield, David started to notice that nobody was doing anything about this guy called Goliath. Everybody around is scared to death of this man who is huge, who is big. They were all embarrassed, all terrorized, all traumatized. And that is the second barrier that I would say will stop you from your dream. Is what I call discouragement. Your second D. You will face discouragement because everybody around you is scared to death. Nobody thinks you can do it. Nobody has hope. All of them has convinced each other that's impossible to make any difference in this kind of a situation. Goliath has created a climate of fear. And everybody had concluded, we are going to lose this battle, and nobody can beat Goliath. Goliath stood and shouted to the ranks of Israel, why do you come out and line up for battle? Choose a man and have him come down to me. Then the Philistines said, this day I defy the army of Israel. Give me a man and let us fight each other. On hearing the Philistines' words, Saul and all the Israelites were dismayed and terrified. Notice the situation. Totally demoralized, gripped with anxiety, feeling hopeless. One translation said that they were so frightened that they couldn't do anything at all. Have you ever found yourself in this kind of a situation? Especially when you are moving towards the dream that God gave to you, and the first thing you find yourself that you really couldn't do anything to change the situation at all. Have you found yourself so hopeless? May you have been encountering this at your work, at your workplace, in your office. People that says to you, in this kind of economy, nobody is going to meet the sales target. Or you meet some people that say to you, we can't solve this problem at all. Everybody around you said, it can't be done. It's never going to happen. Everyone are discouraged because they are filled with fear. Fear of what? Fear to be fired. And they say, there's nothing we can do about it in this kind of economy, in this kind of situation. But let me tell you something. Conventional wisdom is often wrong. Everybody there was wrong. Sometimes the solution has to come outside of their rank and file. You need a little kid from the village to come up and say, we can do it. You need a fresh set of eyes to see the situation. Because many times, the professionals are wrong. The crowd was wrong. Just because everybody says it's so doesn't make it will be so. The crowd is often wrong, especially in this case with the Sea of David. Somebody had to challenge the status quo. Why had everybody given up? Why had they gotten to be so discouraged from just one giant? You know why? The answer is that they were hearing the wrong voice. They were listening to this guy every single day, hear and see this verse, for 40 days, twice a day, morning and evening, the Philistine giants strutted before the army of Israel. 40 days, twice a day, you keep on hearing the negative. You keep on hearing people tell you that it's not going to be done. It's not possible. No wonder you're going to get discouraged. They are listening to this guy from day to day, twice a day. My question for you is, who are you listening? Who are you listening to who says to you that it can't be done? I remember the times when many of us, when we are taking care of our children, especially our children that underperformed, every day you will say to your child, why can't you do it? How come you can't score? Why can't you just pass? And when I began to look at this verse, I say to you that the thing that actually killed and put death to the dream of your children is because constantly we are like Goliath, bombarding every day and telling and destroying the dream that God would have given to your children and my children. If you listen long enough to negative people, you too are going to get negative. Because negativity is highly contagious. Every day, you hear negative. By the end of it, you become a negative, bitter person. You listen again and again to people who are against you and against you every day in your life. You end up being against everybody. Negativity is contagious. And so is fear. So is discouragement. Sometimes you just need to hear a fresh voice. You need a kid from that village that comes with a fresh eyes, never saw this before, and surprised even that all of us has already taken in all the negativity. And he began to say, this guy is nothing. We can take him down. And as he was talking with them, 1 Samuel chapter 17, Goliath came forward and challenged Israel as he had done before. And David heard him. You see the living now? Somebody hear him now, fresh hearing. And when the Israelites saw Goliath, they all ran away in terror. Don't hang around too much with fearful people. Because you hang long enough with them, you end up being fearful. If you hang out long enough with cowards, you also will become a coward. You hang long enough with bitter people, you will end up being bitter. You hang long enough with angry people, you too will become angry. You hang long enough with negative people, you too will become negative. The first barrier to your dream is delay. The second barrier to your dream is discouragement. Because everybody else around you is going to tell you life is really bad. And it can't be done. And they can be wrong. The third thing that is going to stop you and becomes to destroy your dream is called disapproval. I call it the giant of disapproval. David had to handle this one too. He had to be willing to face this disapproval of people around him in order to go after his dream. The reason why most people don't ever go after their dream is that they are afraid of disapproval. They are afraid of rejection. In this case, David's own brother questioned his motive and disproved of David going after the giants. You know, as human beings, we all like to be liked by everybody. We really do. We want everybody to approve everything that we do. But if we are going to go after God's dream, I'm guaranteeing you there will be people that are critics, the people that will say, no way, they are not going to understand you. They will even sometimes attack you. There will be people who are going to judge you for what you do because they don't get it. They don't see it. And they are going to be the disapproval giants in your life. In David's case, it was David's own brother that questions David's motivation. He treats his younger brother with disgust, with disdain, demean him, disregard him, belittle him. You find it in 1 Samuel chapter 17. What are you doing around here anyway? What about the sheep you are supposed to be taken care of? Do you know you are cocky brat? What a cocky brat you are. You just want to see the battle. What have I done now? David replied, I was only asking a question. Just asking a question why nobody is fighting with this giant. And all he get was a whole blast from his brother. Question his motive. Have you had people questioning your motive? And the thing that hurt you most was when they question your intention. Here it comes from the brother. I call it siblings rivalry. Ever fought with your own brother? It happens every day in the family. Right? People closest to you who can't see what you see. They can't imagine you accomplishing something that they never imagined themselves being able to do it. They think they know who you are, but they don't know you are. They don't know you like you know your God. So they come out demeaning him, demoralizing, disapprove him. The sad truth is sometimes your own family just doesn't want you to accomplish God's dream. It may be envy. It may be jealousy. It may be that they think they know you better than you do. And they know your weaknesses. But they do not know God's strength. It may be that they will feel embarrassed if you fail. Happening all the time. Have you ever a situation when you were sitting there and your children were up here serving, performing, doing what they want to do, and the next thing they came down, you didn't see the positive, you began to say, why are you doing this? This is wrong, that is wrong. We start to be critical. We seem to have a higher demand on the one that's close to us. Why? Because we are afraid to be embarrassed. We feel embarrassed. Maybe they resent him being successful, which I doubt so, but it could be that it may make them look bad. Because when David succeeded and the brother didn't, it makes them look bad. That is what I call sibling rivalries. People close to you. God gives you a dream. Other people are afraid to attempt it. And they are even afraid to step out and try. But if you take the dream and you go for it, you're going to be misjudged. You're going to be misinterpreted. You're going to be misunderstood. That is the giant of disapproval. And sadly, many times, that we go for the approval of people than to go for the approval of God. The fourth giant that David had to fight, or the fourth thing, is doubt. There's delay, there's discouragement, there's disapproval, and then there is doubt. Am I capable of that? Am I up to the task that God is giving? Can I actually do what God was asking me to do? People around you are going to tell you, you can't. In David's case, the expert doubted his ability. There was nobody who was a greater expert in war than King Saul himself, because King Saul had been in battle his entire life. When King Saul heard that this little kid is willing to take on giant who has paralyzed the nation, he invites David to come to see him in his palace. And in 1 Samuel chapter 17 verse 30, David says, "Don't worry about the Philistine," David told Saul. "I'll go and fight him." And you know what? Some people will take this confidence as cocky. Wow, David, wow, you really talk big, you know. You don't know what you're looking at. But in fact, maybe David was just exercising the faith that God has planted in him. It's not that they think they can do it. It's that they can think their God can do it. That's the confidence they have in God. But sometimes we misinterpret them as being cocky. For Samuel chapter 17 verse 33, don't be ridiculous. All right? David, I think I missed the verse down there. You see that in 1 Samuel chapter 17 verse 33. What did David reply? Don't be ridiculous. Saul replied, there is no way you can fight this Philistine and possibly win. You're only a boy, and he has been a man of war since his youth. Came from an expert that says to you, you can't do it. That's enough to make you start doubting yourself. But do you know one thing? The experts are often wrong. The expert may tell you that that's the dumbest idea that I've ever heard from you. But many years later, when you have gone ahead with your idea, and then it worked, and then it will say, that's the dumbest advice I've ever gave in my life to you. So many giants, not physical one, equally giants in your mind. How do you overcome these giants? How do you face them? How do you fight them? There are 4 things that David did to deal with these 4 giants in his life. And I want to share with you about that. 4 things that David did when he stepped out to face and confront those giants. Many would have fled. Many would have run away. Many would have probably put this whole thing aside for a while. Or maybe never come and see it. Not David. He confronted each one of them. How do you face giants that comes like this? My first suggestion to you is remember how God has helped you in the past. That's the first thing to deal with. The first thing you do when you face, remember how God has helped you in the past. That is a confidence builder. When I recall, when I recollect, when I remember what God has done in the past with me, it gives me confidence for my future. Remember the time I thought I wouldn't make it, but I did. Remember the time I thought it was the end, but it wasn't. Remember the time when I was at the bottom and I thought I never would be able to climb out of it, but I did. Remember the time when I thought I was all alone, but I wasn't. You remember how God has helped you in the little times and realize He's going to help you in the big times in the future, because God never changes. God doesn't love you one day and not another day. Your God, my God, is a God that is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Yesterday, He's the same as what He is today. And so He would be in the future. I saw this in 1 Samuel chapter 17, verse 36. What did David do when Saul said to you, you can't do it? He says, your servant has killed both lion and bear. The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and from the paw of the bear He will deliver me from the hand of his Philistine. Got the point here? How do you answer this expert? You goes back to the past and see how God has done it. My testimony. I believe all of you have testimony. Testimony is so powerful. They take you away and God deliver you in the situation. A lot of us forgot our testimony. But they are your confidence builder. Every time you meet that giant, goes back again and look back how God had delivered you. That will build your confidence. The second way to deal with your giants is to use the tools God has given you now. I don't wait for something I don't have. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough education. I don't have enough connections. I don't have enough opportunity. I don't have this. I don't have that. No. You use the tools that God has given you right now. Some people are just waiting for something to happen. You don't wait for your ship to come in. Maybe you need to swim out to it. You don't wait for it to come into the harbor. Because you are going to wait a long, long, long time. You use the tool that God has already given you now. He has fully already equipped you if He has called you. David goes to Saul and Saul says, if you are going to fight this guy, you may as well use my armor. How ridiculous is that? David is a short and small kid. Saul is a tall, big, grown man. And Saul said to him, take my armor, David. His hands probably didn't even show when he goes through the sleeve. That's where it happened in 1 Samuel chapter 17. Right? And David says, I cannot go in this because I'm not used to them. Let me say just this. Sometimes, probably even if it is your own armor, have you realized your coat that was old before? It doesn't fit anymore now. Sometimes we look at the thing in the past to use what we have used before. But then Saul never figured out that even he have used it in the past, the own armor maybe doesn't fit him even. And he told to David, use my armor. The problem is that you're going to use Saul's armor, you are going to fail. People will say to you, yeah, go after your own dream, but do it my way. But you are not them. Because you're not them, you're going to fail. I call this Saul's armor syndrome. It is everywhere in business. They are doing it that way so that we should do it this way. Not necessarily. God doesn't create clones. God make you you. God's going to use you to fulfill the dream that He has for you your way. Not the way somebody else did it. If you try to do it the way somebody else did it, you are bound to fail. It's like trying to wear Saul's armor. You can't wear it because you are not Saul. You need to use the tool that you have got. For David, he had a slingshot. So he picked up some stones and he's going to go after it. Something he had at that moment. Something he has been skilled for at that moment. In future, maybe he's not going to be using that. But at this point of time, he needs to use what he already has. People are going to load on you something on you that you just will find that it's too heavy for you. And you're not going to fulfill your dream by that things, because it will become your burden. It becomes your trouble. And you will spend all your time trying to figure and deal with that armor when fighting the actual battle. It's too heavy. Too much things has been captured inside it and confuse you. No, I love this verse very much in Ecclesiastes. If you wait for perfect condition, you will never get anything done. We are all waiting for perfect situation, condition. I'm fully equipped. I'm fully able. I fully have equipped myself enough. But I'm going to say to you, you are never going to have a perfect condition that you are ready for anything that God has given to you. You learn to have it. If you are going to be going for perfection, you're going to be disappointed. But I say to you, don't go for perfection. Go for progress. A lot of things in life is not until you reach a perfect state. A lot of things in life is discovered as you progress, as you go along. Sometimes we all don't. Are you familiar with when we hear those words? Someday I will do it. One of this day. No. Today. This is the day to start this dream that God gave to you. This is the day to go after it. Trust and believe that God has already put enough in you to be able to do it. The third thing you can do to fight your giants, ignore those who destroy your dreams. You must ignore dream destroyer in your life. It's interesting to see that David is going to take on giants that everybody else is scared of to death to take on, and he didn't get any encouragement from anybody. Not a single word of encouragement as he went out. His dad didn't encourage him. His mom didn't encourage him, though he's not mentioned anywhere there. His brother didn't encourage him. The army, the soldiers who were scared to death didn't encourage him. The king whose reputation was on the line didn't encourage him. Nobody gave David any encouragement. What did David do? How is he going to deal with that? He had to encourage himself in the Lord. It's not mentioned there in that context. Because at that point of time, he's a young man, hot-blooded, all charged up. You didn't see when you are very hot-blooded, hot charged up, how negative people are, you still fight on. But we see later in David's life that there was a point of time, very much later, when he faced really big situation, and we saw the heart that is there, how he deal with that. And that is in 1 Samuel chapter 30. 1 Samuel chapter 30, verse 6. And what was that situation? It was at this place called Ziklag, right? And he get all his army to go out and fight a battle. And while his army went out to fight the battle, the king changed his mind, and then he came back. And when he came back to Ziklag, to the place where his camp was, the whole people, the family, an army has came to his camp, take away all their children, take away all their wives, take away everything that they have in. And so when the soldier and David returned there at this place here, they were devastated. They were so angry. They were so upset. And you know who was there angry with? They were angry with David. David, why in the first place do you ask us to go with you and left our children here unprotected, and the enemy came and take us? And the Bible says that his own man want to stone him. And there in the verse here, in 1 Samuel chapter 30, verse 6, David was greatly distressed for the people talk of stoning him, but David encouraged himself in the Lord. When I saw that verse there, I said, yes, God, there are times that nobody will be there to encourage you. Not even the one that is closest to you. Not even the one that you thought would be there to encourage him. And your only basis, the only way that you can fight that discouragement is to be encouraged in the Lord. You have to learn to encourage yourself in the Lord. Because sometimes nobody else is going to do that for you. This is very different than simply having positive mental attitude. It's far more deeper. It's not positive thinking. You know, when you encourage yourself in the Lord, that is a bedrock trust in God's faith, God's grace, God's provision, God's security, God's kindness, God's power. You are trusting at this point of time totally in God. It's not just positive thinking or positive mental attitude. It had to be deeply from inside there. That faith that God will appear. That faith that God will intervene. That faith that God will provide. I'm not against positive thinking. I think positive thinking is good. But I think because positive thinking is definitely better than negative thinking. So between positive thinking and negative, obviously I'll go for negative thinking. But there are some problems in life that no matter how you think positively, it's not going to change the situation. And the only way is God's coming into the picture. No positive thinking can make the difference. Especially when you got a sick child or one with mental illness. All the positive thinking in the world is worthless. Think good thoughts, put a smile in your face, believe. No. You need something far deeper than that. In the deepest, darkest days, you need a bedrock trust in God's grace, in God's love, in God's power, in God's sovereignty, in God's plan for you. A deep-rooted belief that He has spoken and will take you out of that situation. You have to encourage yourself in the Lord because nobody else is going to give you that encouragement. The fourth and final thing to fill your giants is to expect God to help you for His glory. I love, this is what I call David factor, or the faith factor. I love what David says to Goliath as he runs on to him in the battlefield. 1 Samuel chapter 17 verse 45. David replied to the Philistine, "You come to me with sword, spear, and javelin, but I come to you in the name of the Lord of heaven's army. Today the Lord will conquer you, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. And everyone assembled here will know that the Lord rescued His people, but not with sword and spear. This is the Lord's battle, and He will give you to us." Short sentence like this from verse 45 to verse 47, you see one word that came out very often in David's mouth. The Lord, the Lord, the Lord. Not him, not his ability. What are you expecting God to do in your life? Without even knowing, you and I can tell you this: God is doing exactly what you would expect Him to do. No more and no less. Because every time God moves, it's because somebody believed. You believe, God moves. You don't believe, God don't move. Because He is doing what you expect Him to do. The Bible said it all. According to your faith, it will be done unto you. The Bible again says, the just shall live by faith. Without faith, it's impossible to please God. Whatever is not of faith is sin. According to your faith, it will be done unto you. You get to choose how much God does in your life. It's based on how much you choose to trust Him. But David says, I expect God to help me for His glory. It's about His glory. God honors those who honor Him. God is capable definitely to take care of His own glory. It's not my battle. It's His battle. His glory is at stake. I'm only the instrument that is there. If you stand for God's glory, you can expect God to extend His hand. God says, I will use anybody who will trust me. And He says, I will expect God to use me, not because of who I am, but because of His glory. You have no idea how much our unbelief could have limited not just God, sometimes even somebody else that you love. Does your unbelief sometimes even limit your wife, your husband? Does your unbelief sometimes limit your children? Don't be like Jesse. Don't hold them back when God is giving them a great dream in their life. It's not your dream for them. It's God's dream for them. You need to say, I'm going to let anybody else, I'm not going to let anybody else unbelief hold me back. I'm going to not let my own unbelief hold anybody else back, June. Tremendous story about real giants, not physical giants. You face it, I face it. They come along and they appear every now and then, wherever you are. And your only way to battle is this fall that I say to you. I don't know what you are going through in your life at this stage. I don't even know whether at this point of time God is saying to you now, this is the time that I'm asking you to just step forward because I'm going to bring you into your dream. I do not know what you are responding, what you are struggling through, but I can only say something to you, is that if it is God's dream for you, you only need to surrender and trust that it's His dream for you. And if it's His dream, He's a God that's strong enough to bring it past to you. But He needs your cooperation, your willingness. And you're going to do that. You're going to see something mighty coming upon your hand. Would you bow with me in prayer? Hallelujah. There are a lot of things in life you don't have control over. You don't choose when you are going to be born, where you will be born. You don't choose your race. You didn't choose your gender. But you can get to choose how much you are going to trust God. And it is this faith factor that will defeat the giants of delay, of discouragement, of disapproval, and doubt. And if you will say yes to God, He will take you on an adventure of your life. It doesn't really matter what's happened in your life. Say to God, I want the rest of my life, no matter how many years I've gone, to be God's dream, God's battle, 100%. Pray with me as I pray this prayer. God, you have helped me many times in the past. You helped me to things I thought I'd never get out of. But you did help me. If you have helped me in the past, I know you're going to help me in the future. Help me to remember that and draw my confidence from that. Even when people discourage, me or disapprove of me, or even when people misunderstand me. Help me to use the tools that you have given me now. To not wait for the perfect time and the perfect place and the perfect tool, but to use the slingshot and the stones that I have right now. Help me not to wear somebody else's armor, but just go in your strength. And Lord, help me to ignore the dream destroyer, and help me to start every day with a time alone with you, so that I will encourage myself in the Lord. I don't need the encouragement of other people, because I'm encouraging myself in the Lord, because I'm spending time with you, oh God. Help me to expect you to help me, not for my glory, but for yours, that the whole world will know that there is a God, and that everyone will know that the Lord doesn't need weapon to rescue his people. Lord, I've been tired because I've been trying to fight battle as if they are mine. It's your battle. I want to relax and trust you to give me the victory. Jesus, I invite you into this room right now in my life. My living room, my bedroom, my bathroom, my kitchen. I want you to run every area of my life. I want you to be the manager and the Lord, and that from this day forward, I want to thank you in advance that the giants will fall and the dream that you gave me will come true. And I pray this in your name. Amen. Thank you, and God bless you.